Lovely to see all of you. Thank you for coming back. I hope you had a wonderful lunch and carried on having this conversation. And now we're coming to the second part of the afternoon where we're going to have the conversation to continue. And we're very lucky to have Rubbena here to talk about what is DEFA. And this has been one thing that I've been exploring for a long time. Is to try to understand what deaf art means. I have been called a deaf artist before, but I'm actually Welsh, I'm actually Jewish as well, and I'm actually from the UK. So it's been really interesting trying to explore those different kinds of identities. I'm not going to talk much because I don't really know what the answer is, but I really hope with Rubbena and her experience, and then she will have a very amazing conversation about it, what is deaf art.
Thank you, Johnny. Thank you. I think the first thing is for me to talk to you about what I do, who I am, a little bit about me, not for boosting my ego, but just so you get to know me, so you know a little bit about me and why Johnny might have asked me to come today. So I'm an artist, painter, installation maker, started filmmaking in lockdown, as well as doing some paintwork, art therapy, psychotherapy. So been doing that for a long time. So a little bit about me. Here I am. Hi, I'm Rubbena. I'm a painter here in my studio in London. I have been a painter for a while now. I deliver workshops, I travel around England, Scotland and Wales potentially, delivering workshops on various topics, really exploring identity, intersectionality, amongst other things. I'm so fast, aren't I? Can you believe the speed that I work at? Just amazing. Look how big this campus is. It's a good 2 hours. This took 2-3 hours. I've obviously condensed it and sped it up. So, I was born in Surrey, in the east of England, and my parents are from Pakistan. They moved to England in the 1960s, and I was born in England. I regularly flew over to Pakistan, and I really enjoyed the culture. So different. I feel like England's way behind. Pakistan way more ahead in terms of modernity. I was like, oh, what can I bring over to the UK? And try, you know, I didn't want my parents to be stuck in their ways in the 1960s in terms of how they were living here in the UK. So I was, I said, born to be an artist. I have exhibited in many countries around the world, USA, Canada, Korea, Paris, and also I've been interviewed on BSL Zone, as you can see in the close-up series. So here's a painting of mine. And what's interesting about this is when I did that, I was thinking about how I would be thinking about painting with celebrating hands in movement. And so that's why I call this light wave. The traces of our language and how we use our hands, how deaf people struggle with the all-consuming English, written English language that they don't find accessible. And so the feeling and emotion around language and the traces that language leaves. And as you can see here, it's now turned upside down. And this is the feeling of feeling trapped and representing how the deaf community feel. And so I'm not, with Wikipedia, I was quite surprised to find that I might have been on there. And I thought, wow, there's lots of things that have come up here on TV, and I've been around for a long time. I have also, through lockdown, made a film, because I was obviously in lockdown, and I thought, how am I going to survive financially? I've got to try and change, I've got to try and move with the situation I've been given. And so I said, oh, have you thought about making a film? I thought, I don't know if I can make a film. I could do it for me, for fun. Let's just give it a go. Let's just see what I can make. And so I made this film, and through that process, it was a case of, well, why not? I edited 2 hours of footage down to a few minutes, and that was absolute hell. Having to learn the editing process, get to grips with all the digitalisation and technology. And my son is a filmmaker and a writer-director, and said, right, 2 hours is enough. Sorry, 22 hours, you've got no chance. So the amount of editing, and I'm like, no, my precious film, you can't edit this, I want to keep everything, and it's really difficult. The editing process is hard. You have to keep in mind deadlines, had to get things done, and managed to finally do it. That was a really interesting process. So this is 38 deaf people's perspectives talking about mental health, well-being, politics and deaf education and deaf lives, and where sign language comes from, how it evolves, where does sign language come from, how does it relate to art, how can we demonstrate this in art. Learned a lot, influenced my art making from that period of time, interviewing those deaf people, really influencing the way I could think and my creative processes. So let's have a look at a historical journey. Do you know what, I wasn't expected to be an artist, I was expected to be a housewife, a family member. And my parents were told, your child's deaf, she can help at home, don't expect her to be educated. And my parents, of course, thought, oh, maybe art can be a hobby then, keep her occupied. Here's my parents. So, looking back, you've gone 2 seconds. So, very traditional upbringing. My parents worked in a shop for 30 years. I worked in the shop. I was having to learn how to work with delivery drivers. I was like, I'll drive the van, I'll do the deliveries. Dad's like, no. I'm like, I did it anyway. I'm going to work in the shop, I'm going to do it. Oh, I love taking the money, using the till. You know, the world's changed now. Thanks to my parents, to be honest, because it gave me that confidence. My parents were, of course, worried about me being deaf, weren't sure how to manage that and what to do. In terms of my education, pretty much the norm, poorly educated. Just as such, reading age of 8 years old by the time I left, but now I've got 4 degrees. So that's despite the education that I was given. I've managed to achieve that. I won an award at 16 from the Queen. My parents, of course, were absolutely delighted by that. And I don't know where this competition is anymore, but it's a competition that encouraged art through education, and my parents were up for that. So I continued with education, and do you know why I kept studying? Because I didn't think I'd have a chance to get a job. It's like the eternal student. And I thought, I don't want to work in the shop. You get to a stage, when you get to that age, and you think, I need to leave my culture, my family, my parents, and I need to go off on my own. Looking back as a teen, doing painting is the first, really, I'd say, the first mosque that was ever established in Woking, in Surrey, that my parents attended. And this was the time that really influenced us, and still does, this place. I got married in that very first mosque. So, very influenced by Cézanne and the way he painted, and using kind of abstraction and abstract painting styles. So I did a lot of travelling that influenced me as well. You might be from other countries as well. If you know Pakistan, you'll know that our tradition with long hair. And I thought, well, my father was born in 1940, and at that time India and Pakistan were very much split, weren't split as countries, were very much part of the same country, and we were very much identifying as a Pakistani family. And so I had to look at myself and how people viewed me and identified me, so that was an interesting exploration. Then I managed to gain some employment, finally. I worked as a manager. I'd done the odd things, the odd little bits here and there, but I got a proper full-time job as a manager. And then I was managing staff, teaching staff, trying to make educational materials so it could be accessible. It wasn't my thing, but it was a case of how can I translate these resources into BSL, into sign language, basically. So these resources could be used for teaching. Arts, it's been an interesting journey. I've never stopped being an artist. I mean, I'm everywhere. I apologise. I'm really interesting. I'm here, there and everywhere. I will be wherever I need to be as part of my journey, because I'm really passionate about art. And in 1992, I remember I had a bit of an issue because I did some oil paintings in an exhibition and it was still wet. I remember thinking, oh no, I had a long time to prepare for this, and I really want people to come and enjoy my exhibition, and then they'll have a few drinks and they'll stand against my oil painting, and then they walk away literally covered in my art. And then I know they're like, oh shit, they've got my art on their back. And my tutor said, it's not your fault, it's him. How dare he stand against your piece of art? And we'd really give him a dirty look, so that's what happened to this one guy, bless him. So I didn't get sued or anything, or a dry cleaning bill, so that's happened twice, that has. So my first degree, I did an exhibition in London, piece of installation. The installation here was about an immersive experience. I wanted people to enter into a world that I'd created. My experience, my world. I wanted people to immerse themselves in that. And the room was full of an 11-foot by 8-foot paintings surrounding them, and sometimes made up of smaller paintings made from silk. And what I found interesting was how sound and light bounced off these installations and how they interacted with each other. The title was Mirror, and it was inspired by Bollywood movies. This is an interesting commission. This was one of my first commission pieces in London. Here we were looking at different sign languages that we used and comparing second language signers compared to native signers. looking at brain scans. So it's quite a scientific beginning. And then they would look at the results of the brain scans and how language acquisition affected the brain. And so these were like visual representations. And I remember at the time, an interpreter hit a lot of us actually died of a brain tumour. It was unexpected, and it really resonated with all of us. So it was around that time. So I have my own studio in London, and I was really lucky then because it was only 50 quid a month. You can imagine the price it would be today. But I learned how to apply for funding as well, because there was nowhere to get advice. Where can I get advice from? And quite easily we can give up because we don't get access to information about how to do things. So I just had to learn that myself through reading English, obviously not my first language, and apply for funding. And it's a really isolating experience because other artists are different to me. They don't really live in my world. And so it can be a really isolating experience when you're a deaf creator. And so here we got camouflage motion. And this really stems from the idea that we might look like everyone else. We might mask ourselves in the hearing world, and we're not really showing ourselves in mainstream society, so we wear our camouflage all the time. And so here, this is Arts Council funded. So this is about being unheard until marriage, and how we realised actually how important girls are and how valued girls should be. And again, this is about arranged marriages and how girls and women disappear and how they will meet their husband wedding day and how that will affect them and their identities and how transparent they are in the community. And I set up a charity to hear women's experiences. And again, what I wanted to create was an atmosphere of feeling anxiety, not feeling safe, feeling a failure, unsuccessful. So this is what my installation was about. It had beautiful wedding regalia everywhere, and when you got in, it gave a sense of feeling trapped. Again, another art commission. So University of Manchester in 2018, Heriot Watt University as well, asked the deaf community to look at interpreters who translate us into English. I don't know if she's any good, Julie, at the minute. So you be the judge. Hopefully she's interpreting me correctly. It'd be interesting. I've got a woman's voice now, I'll have a man's in a minute. But that's for you as an audience to decide. No pressure, Julie, no pressure. But it's interesting, deaf people's experience of being interpreted, and also about lip reading acquisition. Now we know that when you lip read, only 30% can be understood. That's a lot to misunderstand, that's a lot not to get. So I've chosen purple. Sorry, you've got a different sign for purple. A little accent. There are 17 different signs for purple in the UK. This is our beauty. It can be a bit hell. Thinking, what's that? How do you say purple? It's a conversation that we have. But it's just about that uncertainty. Purples, yellows, and what I would do is, thinking about struggle, thinking about finding it difficult to understand people lip reading, just getting 30% of an utterance. What do you mean? What are they trying to say? So that's how I was trying to depict here. And so I'm thinking as well about people who arrive in this country and the trauma of where they have come from and the physical atrocities they would have experienced, and a lot of trauma and anxiety arriving here in the UK. And I wanted to create a kind of puzzle piece, 38 paintings that come together, puzzle pieces, to represent voices of the deaf community who'd moved here. And so this is what it looked like, but obviously on a bigger scale. This is just a section. So he's a leading artist with 4 other artists from Scotland, Manchester, Birmingham and Kent. And they were also working amongst the community and creating artwork as a collaboration. We all met together and it was really powerful. Another commission piece last year, working in a hospital room, in a hospital, in a sort of here in mainstream setting, but looking at wanting to create positive environments, because when I got into the hospital, we realised that actually there was a high rate of suicide, people were very unwell, and they'd asked me to commission something for this hospital ward that was an inpatient unit for deaf people in the mainstream hospital, for the Bluebell Suite. And so this was a brand new building, and I was asked to commission a piece of art but I worked with the staff and deaf patients because I wanted to get a sense of how they felt. So it represented them and their experiences there. And so it's a permanent piece of art on the wall in Bluebell Suite. So when you get there, I know from working myself in the mental health field for a long time, a lot of staff don't sign very well, and that adds more frustration for deaf people. And then, as you can see, the art became a communication tool so that deaf people could point to it and say, coffee, or I want to do some cookery. So it actually became like a living, working piece of art that was useful. And also, it was really great for signposting, communication support, but the main artwork here on the right-hand side represents deaf patients, their culture, the food they enjoy, part of their culture, and really became a map, an Olympic map. The rings of the Olympic flag, and keywords that came up like empowerment, deaf equality, as we've talked about this morning. We brought all those in, thought about how they'd be signed, of course, and I created these with my hands. The hands were really intentional here because what I wanted to do is be tactile. I really wanted you to be able to use your hands in the piece so that you could actually feel it with deaf-blind people as well. And the project really was supposed to be for a short while, but ended up taking a lot longer. So we'd have to use ladders, go right up to the top before we'd have to really get in early to go, I'm just going to do this a little bit, you can wait, you start working a minute and just do it. So it was really physically difficult to produce as well. And then I'd have to go and do my job, come back after they finished their work, and then carry on painting and finishing the piece. So I had to work around them. So if you can see where it's installed here, and you can see it's like these glass panels and these windows, and it just really important that it was situated here because it brought that outside in and created kind of warm atmosphere.
It's really important for us, as adult deaf people, it's really important for us to talk about deaf identity. And I run workshops in schools, working with youngsters, talking about what makes us deaf, how do we understand each other, and then we create art around that. And I go and lead workshops. Schools approach me to ask me to go to schools, and that's fine. I think it's a really important part of my life because you get that exposure to the arts, and there's a gap within that community, so I think it's really important. Throughout the workshops, we get a lot of positive feedback from adults as well as from children. A lot of the adults who come say, "Gosh, this is the first I've done art since I left school." And the positivity they get from that is brilliant. And hopefully they go home and they've learned new skills, but also it's about their sort of general well-being and their mental health. So then I went on to qualify as an art therapist because it wasn't my intention, but through doing my workshops, it was a type of therapy, and some people were going through hell. Working with English, working through interpreters, working with all the jargon, and for myself then training, it was really hard. So I made sure I had the right support, and that was really important, that I could work through that to become a good therapist. And I can see how helps people to reflect and to work on themselves. So I work part-time with the NHS with CAMS and also then in deaf schools. So, and then some freelance work, do workshops and things as well. So a big strength for me is, is managing that sort of trauma, and I know how to break through and help people in quite a quick way. We're talking about ideally long-term therapy, but sometimes short-term intervention is important. And working with art therapy really helps people a lot. Obviously, I have to ask people for permission to share their work. This was some of my patients' work, and they said it was okay for me to share it. But the workshops really create quite a strong community, and you can see people sitting there thinking, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? And what I want to do is translate that feeling into their artwork. And I want them to go back to the community and say, okay, look, I've tried this. I need to think about what I'm going to do next then. I have another job where I work doing BSL tours. And looking at the tradition of art, the history of art, and being able to translate that. And one good thing is with a lot of art, they work with music. And obviously it helps to have interpreters working with that. But I quite often will get the timing wrong because I can't hear the music. So I want to describe the feeling that comes from that music and get that through. But also now I want to work with the digital world and think about how I can express that emotions of the art and music and express that to other people. I want to show you an example if I can. So these are some words, okay, that are part of an art display. So there's a new tour that's happening, okay, and I had to think about how I was going to translate this. Okay, now thankfully there were some words to go with this, and this is what it ended up looking like. So that last part was, I put my mind and my soul into my work. So I put my heart and my soul into my work, and I lost my mind in the process. Right. So this was an example, okay, but you could see, I think you could feel, you can see the emotion involved in there. So, for some people they say, really makes them tingle, and it's about translating that emotion into BSL. So for a deaf person, of course, the music isn't accessible, so this gives them the emotion that other hearing people get through the music. And it can be really, really powerful. So these are some of the other BSL tours I do. I live in London, so I don't live here in Wales, but I think it is something that you need in Wales. So, you know, but if you come to London, you come to the Hayward Gallery, for example. Okay, so I also do the art making tours. Nice, have a relax and watch this. So, why am I here? Talking about deaf art. What is deaf art? I don't know if you know, but there's a bit of a debate, particularly I went to America, and I was like, told you, are you a deaf artist? I don't know, am I a deaf artist? I don't know, I mean, I'm deaf, and I am an artist, but, you know, I mean, if you think about your hands, facial expressions and things, you know, do they influence, you know, my art? You know, during lockdown, of course, I started art. Before then, I wouldn't have said anything. But now, as a deaf artist, am I creating deaf art or not? This is deaf art. This is deaf art from Wales. Some of you might know some of the people. So, Alex Miller, who's actually in the audience, he's a bit shy. Oh, he's identified himself. Good. Glenn Palin. Okay, lives in somewhere about where? North? Where's it? Up there. Okay, in north, okay. On his own, in the middle of nowhere. Okay, does a lot of drawing, a lot of art in Manchester. This person, Amanda Gilbert. Okay, who's coming tomorrow? Oh, lovely, apparently it's coming tomorrow. Okay, so there are Welsh deaf artists. So they exist here in Wales. Now, there's also, this is art produced by deaf artists, so that's deaf art. Now, people say, have a look at this, expressive. Is it something to do with deaf experience? Is it something to do with deaf culture? Is it something to do with linguistics? Something to do with that intersectional modality, that perspective. Something that's deep and rich that allows us to express all of that. But at the end of the day, it's art made by deaf artists. I don't think we have to be too complicated, like they've been in America with the debate in America. Okay? We are artists. If we're deaf artists. Okay, so I've shown you 3 Welsh deaf artists. Okay? So, throughout lockdown, we set up DVA UK. That's Deaf Visual Artists from the UK. Okay? Because I realised during lockdown, some deaf artists were disappearing. Okay, things had been bad already because things were difficult to get exposure, and then it got worse, didn't it? 117 deaf visual artists joined the DVA UK. Okay, there are 3 that I've just named from Wales. Okay, so I know through Facebook, through online chats and things, through debates, people have emerged, and I've met quite a lot of people. Okay. The idea here was to find people, find out where they are, support them, talk with each other, think about resources, think about how we can share good ideas. The idea is that, you're not on your own. We've been very lucky. People have sort of said, yes, I'm involved. I want to be involved. I volunteer. So there's a group of us who support each other. We share the responsibility of managing that group and that network. And, at some point we'll pass it on. But it's good to have that support. It's, I think at the time I thought I was on my own, but it's good to know that that support is there, that network is there, and that people have networks in local areas. Because what we want is deaf artists to thrive in the area they're in, not to be forced to move to London, for example, or to move to a certain place where there are more deaf artists, but to thrive where you are. So the website is there. Okay, this was a meetup. This was the first time we met a group of us. Okay. And from time to time now we meet up, and it's great. We have random meetups. It's lovely. We had a retreat, an opportunity to have a repeat at the Yorkshire Sculpture Park, and 20 deaf people turned up. And it was great. And we weren't even full, we wanted more, But it was great. We got a free location, free venue, and it was absolutely brilliant to come in and share ideas, to talk about, your journey, where you've been, where you're going to, what situations we're in, how we can help. People have been through the same situations. And that's so important. Because, I think in the past we felt pulled down, pulled back, and we need to be pushed forward and pulled up, because we are artists. We're in that world, that theatre world, that TV world, that drama world. Art is not quite the same as the arts. Okay, so there are very different opportunities in the wider arts as there are in strictly art. So, and different challenges too, so there are similarities. Obviously, people want to earn a living doing what they do. But we've set up some BSL sort of cultural events, and things like that. But there isn't a massive opportunity for people to be paid £3,000, £4,000, £5,000 for a week, and that's the problem. But having a safe space, having that space online, thankfully during lockdown we set that up, is really appropriate. So, and some people have contributed, some people have paid, some people have looked for funding and arranged meetups for seminars, workshops. In Wales, there's there's very limited training. And in terms of deaf-led BSL tools, do you have deaf-led? Yeah. Okay, we've got some training here. Yeah, Alex. Oh, Alex is brilliant. Okay, he's doing some BSL tool training. Okay, so Alex is now qualified to deliver BSL tours locally in Wales. Okay, so the local person using Welsh dialect signs, so not bringing somebody in from London. That's great. And through Facebook and through workshops that we run, there are opportunities for deaf people to get involved in training like that. So Alex volunteered to be involved, and that's great because that gives you that richness of a BSL user, BSL deaf person leading a tour, rather than a hearing person leading the tour, okay, and using English to demand and dictate what's happening. We use BSL, and we're coming at it from a completely different cultural perspective. And if that if that tour is a BSL-led tour, you get a different experience. And of course, we can improve things. We're not going to be brilliant every time, but get feedback, see if we can help, see if we can improve things. Okay. Okay, getting BSL interpreters for tours is expensive. Okay. If you have a BSL-led tour, it's there. Okay, so rather than having the formal tour guide and the interpreter, you have the culturally rich first language experience. Okay, rather than it being the hearing language, following the English grammar, okay, and following all those rules, okay, it becomes a deaf experience. And deaf people are more likely to come back again and experience that and gain more. Throughout the question and answer, the language barriers are there if it's in English. If it's a BSL-led tour, it's completely different. Okay? So hopefully, you can tell me where the opportunities are, where the venues are, And these are the same problems that England faced, and still faces. Where's the money coming from? How will they fund it? Where are the possibilities? And again, having that safe space online, because these days, people don't have to travel to be in touch with each other. So actually being able to communicate online is a brilliant tool. And we want more retreats. Deaf people straight away from Yorkshire Sculpture Park were saying, when are we doing this again? But we need that free space. We need somewhere that we can be creative. So we need some kind of space. Yorkshire Sculpture Park have said, yeah, we'll come back again, we'll come back again all the time. We said, look, we might come back every 2 years, but we'd like to have it not in the same region. We'd like to have it one in the south, maybe, one in the east, the west, okay? Because obviously people are travelling and it costs a lot of money. In terms of deaf artists leading their own exhibitions, etc., this is really useful because you've got deaf art, and we're looking to the next generation then, the young people who are looking for role models. They're looking to say, who can I meet? Who's going to mentor me? Who's going to develop my work? Who am I going to follow in the footsteps of? And there needs to be that generational link, so that, when I look back, it was hard. I had no idea. It was luck. Really, I managed to find a space for 50 quid rent, I know, some of you are older than me, I know, but, it was expensive back then even. But I needed a part-time job, I was working long shifts and trying to include my artwork in between, and trying to get a bit of sleep. But, there were certain things that didn't suit me, and I used to get absolutely frustrated, and sometimes I'd be like, oh, I don't want to do this, but I had to do it, and I had to sort of say to my family, look, you go away, I'll keep doing this. But the frustrations in the system, the frustrations in the culture, in the language, the barriers that you come across, and you had to say to people, look, this is my way, this is my visual way. It's expressive, and we really need to continue that and identify deaf art in Wales. Give them the opportunity to lead. Give them the opportunity to find out what they can do, what they can't do. Empowering people. You know, being empowered is a privilege. And we need to give people access to both worlds and see how the worlds can combine. The language barrier is one of the first issues. Awful is, oh, you know, oh, the interpreter for Rubbena's arrived. I said, no, not an interpreter for me, it's an interpreter for everybody else. It's an interpreter for the audience. I feel more disabled when people say, oh, the interpreter for Rubbena's arrived. I'm like, come on, they're not just here for me. The interpreter's here for the room, for everybody. So, you know, sometimes when people use that kind of language, it makes me want to shoot them. Yeah. Now, luckily I was offered a solo art exhibition. Okay, now it's in New York. If you want to fly over there, anytime, January to May. Okay, when is it? Yeah, January to May. So it's a 4-month residency in New York, and you know it's one of those places where I go and I have a conversation with people, and people said, look, you know, I really like your painting. I really like you to do this. I'm like, okay. And then they said, no, it's a full gallery and it's 4 months. You go, whoa, what? So it was an opportunity. It was an opportunity. And I'm like, well, yeah, that's fine, but I'm broke. No, we'll pay you. What? You're actually going to pay me to show? Yes, we'll pay you, and we'll pay for your time. Come over to New York, have a look. In fact, come over twice, have a look. You know, we'll do all the shipping and everything. I thought, wonderful. So I go, I have a look, I see where all my work is going to go, you know, and obviously I've got quite a bit of work to do, but then I will send it all over there. And that's how art should work, you know? You know, they've got archives there of deaf artists in New York, you know, from all the different states, you know, and they say, oh, this is a collection from here, this is a collection from there. I'm like, what? You know, but there's deaf history there, there's deaf art there, and we don't have that speech yet. I know you're looking at these, am I okay for time? Okay. So in conclusion, pride in British Sign Language, the culture of the community, everybody, you know, whatever your background is, you know, whether you're a deaf Muslim artist, whether, you know, I want people to thrive where they are, not and be themselves. You know, it's really important that people are enabled to be themselves and then be built up to be better themselves. Not spoon-fed, not so that they become dependent on some kind of support system, because you know we can't support people forever and ever and ever. People need to be independent. Also, you know, think about families and parents. 95% of deaf children are born to hearing parents, and we have to think about them. You know, the deaf, they're born deaf, they're in England, but you know, think about, you know, the BSL bill and stuff like that. You know, when I was a kid, there was no BSL. I had to do education orally because sign language was banned. We weren't allowed to use sign language. Okay. My mum, you know, when I first spoke at 8, my mum was, you know, delighted, but she used to teach me. The speech therapy that we went through was horrendous. It wasn't until I went to University of London, I got there and I met deaf people and they were all signing. And I was like, what on earth? And I said, sorry, can you speak clearly because I'm trying to lip read? And they all signed at me like this, it was crazy. Again, I said, sorry, what? I don't get it. So there was a total clash of upbringings. Okay, thankfully I made friends with people, and we look back now and we laugh. We laugh at my experience, at my, you know, inexperience. And, you know, that is a common story amongst people in the deaf community. You know, people who now sign, but, you know, we go in there and we become the people we are. Thanks to them, that's who I am. And I would say to my parents now, you know, it's still hard work, but, you know, I try to say that this is normal. You know, that's my world, where people are getting information to me, and I can see it, the visual information. And my parents are like, yeah, but I can't hear that. Saying, yeah, I know, but it's different for you. You know, I can be there, I can be in both worlds. I'm comfortable in the BSL world. I accept the spoken world, I accept the hearing world is there. But for my parents, there was a certain amount of shame. You know, there was embarrassment about signing. You know, and I understand that, and that's their culture. And I hope I help them to understand my culture now. You know, and I remember, you know, once my dad saying, you know, look, you're clever. You know, you shouldn't be doing art. You know, maybe you should do maths. I'm like, it's too late now. I'm an artist. But I think my father suddenly realised, oh gosh, you know, you're quite intelligent. Okay, I don't know. Have people got questions? Have people got anything? Oh, have a bit of time for questions. Sorry. Yes? Okay, maybe I. Okay. Okay, so we're going to stop for now. Thank you very much indeed. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much for being here, for really what incredible journey she's been on tonight. It made me think about that art. It's not just a powerful medium, that it's about well-being, mental health, but more importantly, the safe space. And I've been thinking about the idea of a deaf Welsh video network in Wales, and we'd be very lucky about get some funding to really explore that, to work with an art gallery in Swansea and two art galleries in Swansea, to work with a young deaf artist from Swansea, and we have Rubbena to come in as a mentor to really support that, and hoping then to grow. But it's also so lovely to see Alex there to be a bit at tour, and it's so important. And I feel like it's happening, kind of happening, you know, and maybe in Wales we start to grow a little bit more. And I really believe in strong collaboration, strong partnership, because sometimes we might have to learn from people like Rubbena, people like Stephen, people like Erin, and all the people outside of Wales in order for us to grow. But thank you again for your brilliant presentation.